You hit a fade on one, another fade on number two, and now you're standing on hole three, your nemesis hole, where a fade is trouble, and your brain goes, oh no, not again. So you aim left and you pull it. Sound familiar? Today we're talking about how previous shots keep ruining today's game and what to do about it. Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. Welcome back to Think Above Par. I hope you're doing fabulous, having a beautiful December, getting ready for the holidays. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that happened on a recent coaching call that I bet is happening to you right now if you're playing golf, or happened during the season, probably multiple times a year. And it's about memory, but not really in the way that you think. One of the members, Jennifer, brought up the situation that's so common, and I want you to listen for yourself in this story. So Jennifer's playing her home course. She hits a fade on hole number one, no big deal. Doesn't get in any trouble. Hits another fade on hole number two, still fine. Actually, the fade worked perfectly well on both holes. Then she gets to hole number three, and hole three, a fade is trouble on that hole. And here's what her brain does, and I bet your brain does it too. She's like, oh crap, I faded my last drive, I faded the first drive, and I don't want to do that here. Now she's standing on the tee, remembering that fade from hole number one and two. And she's like, I can't let that happen on this hole. So what does she do? She aims a little left to compensate, but then she pulls it, right? Because she's trying to fix the fade. Because she's not playing golf. She's fighting a memory from the last two holes. She's trying not to do something instead of just playing the shot that's in front of her. So here's what I told her, and this is really important. If you hit a fade and you don't clean up your thoughts about it, if it's not what you wanted to hit, if you make that fade mean something, that memory can win the hole before you ever swing. So you want to make the fade neutral, the fade that you hit on the first couple holes. If that's not your normal shot, it happened. All right. That's just information about what you brought to the course that day. So the key is this. If you're hitting a fade, you play a fade. Don't argue with what's coming out of your bag. Your job isn't to fight what you brought. Your job is to get from point A to B in the least amount of shots possible with what you own at this given moment in time. You've got to play with what you brought until you have enough evidence to believe something else is happening out on the golf course. So here's what this looks like practically. You go to the range before you play a round to warm up. I hope you do this because you get to see what you're bringing to the table and you see what you got. And maybe it's a fade that day. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe your contact is a little weak in the beginning. That's just information. That's just what you're working with that day. Now, I've gone to the range and hit fades, then gone to the course and hit a draw in the first hole. Okay, not a problem. Now I know that meant nothing on the range. But if you're consistently hitting that shot and you're transferring it from the range out to the golf course, you've got to play that shot. You want to stand on the tee or any shot in front of you with as much certainty as possible. That's probably the best thing I can tell you. So on hole number three, Jennifer's got a choice. I hit a fade on number one and two, and I'm probably going to hit a fade here too. So let's play the fade. Don't fight it, surrender to it, and you want to aim accordingly. Now, this is another thing for the first couple holes that you want to make sure that you're checking in with yourself. You might be a little anxious or you haven't settled into the round yet, and your shots might be a little off center, maybe not as solid, maybe a little weaker fade. It's very common to come out in the first couple holes. Your key is not to judge that. Just kind of accept that you're going to settle into the round and those solid shots are going to start coming out. You're really going to struggle if you start trying to fix a fade that you're hitting from a place of a little bit nervousness or anxiety or unsettled. That's not going to work. You're going to try and force something in there, a shot, or all of a sudden all these swing thoughts that you've been working on come back up into your mind because you haven't hit the first couple of shots of that round very solidly. The other thing I want to tell you is if that little hole that you have that is a nemesis of yours, hers is number 3, sometimes it's number 16, sometimes it's right in the middle. It doesn't matter. But if it's earlier in the round, one of the challenges is that you may not have settled into your groove, so to speak, for the round. So you definitely have to play with what evidence you have of those first couple of holes, even if you want to hit a draw there, even if your natural ball flight is something different. Now, this is the thing. I don't want you to ever aim into trouble. My dad taught me this lesson in the meanest possible way. Because I aimed into the middle of a pond when I was a junior golfer, thinking I was going to hit a fade, and it didn't fade. Right? I'm sure you've had that happen. My ball's been curving all day. Are you kidding me? And now it doesn't curve? This is golf. So my ball went into the pond. My dad was, I'm not going to say he was super upset with me, but he just thought it was dumb. And he taught me a lesson that I will not forget. And one of the things is never aim your ball into trouble just in case that happens, if you can avoid it at all possible. There are times the wind is blowing so hard that we can't do anything but aim it towards the trouble. But you also have something that you know is pretty reliable, that the wind is going to move the ball. In your swing, anything can happen. That fade that you've been hitting all day, and you're aiming it over the water, and next thing you know, you do something a little wonky, and it goes straight, or you draw it, or you have a double cross. So I discourage you from aiming your ball into trouble. However, you want to play with what you brought or what evidence you have, at least in those first couple holes. If your hole that you don't like or that shot that you don't like is early in the round. If it's later in the round, you already have lots of evidence of how your round is going. You have lots of evidence of the kind of shots that you're hitting. Then you get to make some really smart and strategic decisions. Not that you can't at number 3, now that I'm saying that. If a driver on number 3 is just risky, then the smartest thing that you're going to do is probably take out a shorter club, cut your losses, because when that happens, you have a lot of golf left to play, and you want to protect yourself and your future self for the rest of that round, meaning you don't want to get behind the 8 ball early. You might want to play a little conservatively, or you don't want to have, as I call it, red ass, like where you're really ticked off because of this error that you made early in the round. You still got 15 freaking holes to play, right? So you want to take care of your future self too when you're out there playing golf. So that's you knowing you, stepping out of what you think you're supposed to do, what quote unquote is protocol, so to speak, for golf. So many times people just think that they're supposed to hit a driver because they own a driver, and everybody tees off with a driver, and maybe you don't hit it as far as you would like, and the holes play longer, and darn it, you're going to hit that damn driver, but you've only hit 10 fairways in the last 20 years with this driver, and you still think it's a good idea. I'm not exaggerating when I can tell you that I've witnessed that, right? Now, I know that's not you, but I'm just saying we get lost in this story about how golf is supposed to be played and what you're supposed to do, and you don't meet yourself where you are. Where you are is what you did on the range until you have evidence, more evidence of it on the golf course that something else showed up. And that's totally possible. That happens all the time. And then by the time you get to the latter holes in the round, you know what is most likely going to show up. But either way, your objective is to stand on that tee shot or any approach shot with as much certainty as possible. With what evidence do I have of what I've done today, and what's the smartest thing for me to do? Because when you do that, you settle down. Your brain isn't scared. Right? You're not in fear as much about what the outcome's going to be, because if you're standing over that golf ball and you're afraid, for sure you're not going to make a very reliable and predictable swing. So this isn't just about tee shots or fades or whatever you're doing, but it's also about a memory that you might have of a hole where you have consistently hit it out of play. And it's really important that you make that as neutral as possible right away. You don't want to attach a lot of emotion to it, because the more emotion that you attach to that miss, the more your memory or your brain is going to offer it up to you really quickly. Think about the shots that you don't remember. And the reason that you don't remember them, even if they were a miss, is likely because you did not have a lot of negative emotion attached to it. But the ones that really sting, the memories that you have, that you didn't like how it felt, or you didn't like the number that you had, and you didn't do anything about cleaning it up, and you just really were devastated or disappointed, or you had a lot of shame or embarrassment, and you didn't take an opportunity to make that neutral. And when I say that, take an opportunity, I mean, you have to deliberately do this and detach the emotion from that shot. Because if the emotion is attached to that shot, your brain will put it in the memory bank, and it will gladly pull it up for you the next time you tee off. And all of a sudden, all these racing emotions come over you because you had so much emotion attached to the last time you missed a shot there, or a round, or a tournament, or a course, or playing with a person. That's why you have memories that pop up really quickly about, oh, I remember being here and I hit the shot in the water, or I fatted it in front of a bunch of people. It pops up very quickly because it stung. And your brain's like, this must be important. So I want to bring this up to you to keep you alive as a species, right? Even though I know that sounds ridiculous because we're talking about golf, but your brain, that's the way your brain works. So this podcast has a couple points to it. One is that you want to make sure that you're playing with what you own that day, that given moment in time. If it's a fade and you don't typically hit a fade and you're like, who am I? Let me see if I can force this draw to come out, right? You're likely not going to create great results. Play with what you got until you settle into the round. Then by you get to the latter holes in the round, you're going to have a lot of evidence of what you got going on that day. Play it. Don't fight it. Surrender to it. The other thing I want you to do is clean up your judgment, really, of the shots that you have early in the round. And don't argue with what you brought. Make it as neutral as you possibly can and play smart. Because remember, as I said, the objective is for you to get from point A to point B in the least amount of shots possible. Not with what you think you're supposed to do. It's what you got that day. And if that day you have a thin slice, then you're playing a thin slice all day. You got to aim for it. It's amazing how many times I have played golf with people who are on the 15th hole and say, I've been in the right rough all day. And I just go, aim down the left rough because you're hitting a fade, and let the ball finish and end up in the fairway. And they look at me like I have 17 heads, because the concept of ever aiming anywhere but the center of the fairway kind of blows their mind, right? We just get wrapped up in our own heads. So I just wanted to share this episode with you to see if you could find yourself in this story somewhere and how this shows up for you. Not force yourself to hit shots that you don't own, but play with what you brought that day. All right, my friends, if you want more support and you want to jump into the community of people who are talking about all things Think Above Par and mental golf, go to yourmentalcaddy.com. I'd love to see you in there. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. All right, bye. Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it.